All right. So the great thing is Emily and I both were at the people last week, and we were so privileged to sit in a session led by the most wonderful Karen Matt. And so I came back and totally just changed the entire presentation for you all.
With very up-to-date, relevant,
with
it's good stuff.
Great information that we may have borrowed from Karen Matt. So, so you're in for a treat today. So we're going to talk about stars align. So, anyways, we're going to talk about parent involvement and parent engagement. There's a place for both of them in your district, but let's talk our way.
Fine. It's okay.
Okay. All right. So we are going to talk about the differences in the two, and we have some data to show you and some other great things to think about. And then Emily Caskey is joining me today. She's from the lovely Richland too. And she's going to share some wonderful things that they're doing there. And then if we have time, I don't know, we'll see if you guys want to do a little bit of sharing. All right, so number one, and hey, we're just going to jump in. Right. All right, so engagement is a strategy, not a goal. And I want you to think about like what your strategic goals are in your district. Because most of the time what we see is that family engagement finds its way into this goal list. And it's not a goal. Strengthening parent engagement is not something that we're trying to check off. It's a strategy. So, these are typical goals that you'll see, increasing student reading, the amount that we have at grade level, reducing and eliminating chronic absenteeism, improving graduation rates. Like all of those are things that we can measure. All of those are things that we're trying to achieve. But strengthening family engagement is not something that we're trying to achieve. It's something that we need to do, right? It's something that helps us when we do this, all of this falls in line.
And it also gets you to have a mindset shift a little bit, because in college, undergrad, even in grad school, what was part of your portfolio is everything you had to check off. Family and community engagement, right? That was like the last thing on the list.
The last thing on the list. Right. And so the challenge that we have is that family engagement is framed as a separate goal, right? So when we frame it as a separate goal, it's starting to compete for attention and resources. And that's not what we want. We don't want it competing. We want it to get the resources, to be the strategy to help you meet those goals. And then also, it becomes just one more initiative, right? Just one more thing we have to do. And I think that's how we approach family engagement. Think about family nights. I can remember being a teacher and not wanting to stay late for a family night, and totally using some of the language I used in my session yesterday, like parents aren't going to come anyways. But or even sometimes being guilty of being like, well, maybe nobody will come. But we've got to change our mindset. That's not just one more thing to get done. That it's essential for them to be partners. Cool. All right, so we got to reposition family engagement as a strategy. So we need to realize that when we have family engagement as a core improvement strategy, all those other things take place. All right, so let's talk about parent involvement versus parent engagement. So if you don't know the many times I've told you this, if you're new to my session, the South Carolina has a family engagement K-12 framework. And within that framework, we have these strategies for success. And they include building relationships, communication, linking families to learning outcomes, collaborative practices, and community partnerships. And I work really hand in hand with two other ladies from the State Department, Cheryl Fitz and Kim Priester. Kim Priester works with military families and school choice, and Cheryl Fitz works with special education. And together we come together and we do these lovely roundtables quarterly. Last year we did them twice a year, but this year we're doing them quarterly. And some really great discussions have come out of those. So if you're not on our listserv, I think it's at the end for you to join. If you're not on our parent and family engagement listserv, and that's something that you want to tap into, please make sure that you reach out to me so that we can get you. Because not only does it send forward information about the roundtables, but Cheryl's really amazing, and she sends out all kinds of information about upcoming conferences that you can tap into, or we work hand in hand with CFEC, which is the Carolina Family Engagement Center, and different resources. All right, so let's look at the definitions. According to AI, I call her my assistant. Parent involvement refers to the actions parents take to support their child's education, such as attending parent-teacher conferences, volunteering at school events, and helping with homework. It is often seen as a more passive role where parents participate in activities predetermined by the school. However, parent engagement goes beyond mere involvement. It involves parents actively collaborating with educators in decision-making processes, advocating for school improvements, and co-planning educational strategies. Engagement is characterized by a partnership between parents and schools where parents' insights and contributions are valued. And if you sat in our session yesterday with Cameron, we really talked about how it's really important for us to get that trust to become partners with our parents. And if you're a Title I school, like, you're having to do some of this collaboration anyway, right? We talked yesterday about the fact that we need to think about who's at the table with us. When we're doing these required Title I meetings, are the people that are at the table with you, are your community partners, are your parents, are they showing or representative of who you have in your school? Because if they're all like, your PTO parents, then you don't have everybody represented at the table, helping to make those decisions with your Title I funds. All right, so Larry Ferlazzo says that a school striving for family involvement often leads with its mouth, identifying projects, needs, and goals, and then telling parents how they can contribute. A school striving for family engagement, on the other hand, takes the lead with its ears, listening to what parents think, dream, and worry about. The goal of family engagement is not to serve clients, but to gain partners. Think about that shift and think about that as we're planning activities for our families. All right, so involvement versus engagement. So involvement focuses on individual responsibility. Communication to families is one way. Space for listening is a low priority. Focus is on programming, not people. And the relationship is transactional. However, engagement focuses on collective responsibility and partnership. Communication with families is two-way, and listening is prioritized. Family knowledge is valued and honored. They focus on a collaborative practice. Relationship is transformative, not transactional, but transformative for their families and students. And it's linked to their educational goals. All right, according to AI, parent involvement, while beneficial, involvement alone may not significantly impact student outcomes. It often leads to meeting school goals, but does not foster deeper connections. While engagement, the research indicates that engaged parents can lead to better academic performance, higher attendance rates, and improved social skills. Engagement fosters a stronger bond between parents and schools, enhancing the overall experience for students. So let's look at the data. So the data that we have is the engagement advantage. It's findings from a mixed method study of family and school partnerships that was just conducted in March. And it's conducted by these lovely people that have interesting questions that were asked. Stage 1 was, were schools with strong family engagement prior to the pandemic better equipped to withstand the academic impacts of disruptions in schooling? And stage 2 is, if so, what are schools with strong family engagement doing differently that leads to better outcomes? So they looked at 5 essential details and they conducted a survey. And so those 5 essentials were the effective leaders, collaborative teachers, involved families, supportive environment, and ambitious instruction. And these essential details came from the survey results. So they looked at the 5 supports of student achievement. They looked at involved families as essential measures to the extent to which all school staff develop strong relationships with families. And that was all based on responses that measured parent influence on decision-making in schools, parent involvement in school, and teacher and parent trust. So here's the findings. All right, so the typical change in attendance outcomes from 2018 and 2019 to 2021, 2022 by strength of family engagement. So compared to a typical school of 500 students with weak family engagement, a school with strong family engagement. So we have chronic absenteeism. So they had 31 fewer chronically absent students. Our strong engagement are our blue ones, the red are our weak. And then as far as attendance rate goes, they had about 800 fewer absences. So that amounted to more than 45,000 of a typical school budget. So when parent engagement is stronger, we see results. Let's talk about the outcomes on achievement. So those with strong engagement had 11 more students meeting the ELA proficiency standards, and they had 14 more students meeting the math proficiency standards. So keeping all measure characteristics the same, the estimated difference in chronic absenteeism between a school with weak family engagement and a school with strong family engagement compared to, so where strong family engagement was 6.2 lower chronic absenteeism, and then they also took into consideration our higher poverty. So the estimated difference in chronic absenteeism between a school that serves a low percent of low-income students and a school that serves a high percent of low-income students. So our percentage points were strong family engagement, and then our percentage points with those high poverty numbers. So our schools with weak family engagement have involved family scores in the 10th percentile, and schools with strong family engagement have involved family scores in the 90th percentile. The involved family scores range from 1 to 99. The 10th percentile is equivalent to a family score of 26, and the 90th percentile is equivalent of a score of 78. And then our schools with a low percent of low-income students have a low-income student population in the 10th percentile, and we know about our high. All right, so in stage 2 of the data collection, they partner with 5 bright spot schools and 5 partner schools from the same district that served a similar student body. They collected more than 100 interviews with principals, teachers, and family members from schools representing nearly 8,000 students, and then they examined which practices and conditions were more frequently emphasized. And so from that, they came up with these 5 distinguishing factors that these bright spot schools have. First, they have a mindset that families are equal partners. Second, they have a mindset that leadership has clear vision, inspiration, expectations, and infrastructure. And then communication, it's one-on-one, it's academically focused, and it's unwavering. And then our relationships are personal and enduring. And I thought this was really cool. They talked about this is a middle school schedule. If you have ever been a principal, you know what it's like to create this master schedule. But this middle school made time within their day where their teachers could carve out time to meet with families. And I know we all have planning periods, but I don't know about what it's like today, but when I was teaching, a planning period was never a planning period. They always showed it was like, yeah, it was like on Mondays you meet with your team, on Tuesdays you meet with the curriculum coach, on Wednesdays you meet with the literacy coach. And so it was never, or on Fridays I was too tired to do anything. You could probably find me in the common space, passed out on the thing. Like it was just never like carved out time where I would reach out to parents. And so when you make it a priority, things start happening. So where do we start? Well, we start with our own core beliefs. Karen Matt has a book called Beyond the Bake Sale. That was one of her first ones. And here are the 4 core beliefs that she states. All families have dreams for their children and want the best for them. It is vital for educators to understand that families who send their children to them each day want their children to succeed in school and life. And yesterday I talked about the fact that we have these preconceived thoughts about our families, and that it's not that families don't want the best for their kids. It just may be that like school is number 10 on the list. All right. Additionally, all families have the capacity to support their children's learning. So they do care deeply about their child's success, even when their engagement looks different than what we think it should look like. Families and school staff should be equal partners. Relationships work best when families' voices are expertise are respected and shared decision making. We talked about that yesterday as well, tapping into their assets and inviting them in. And then the responsibility for building and sustaining partnerships rests primarily with school program staff, especially the school leaders. School leaders and staff set the tone and must create a welcoming structure and practice for collaboration. Yesterday I talked about the fact that some of those staff are the first people that families engage with, whether it's in the front office, whether it's in the car rider line, whether it's you're a brand new student and you're coming to this unknown place. If there's clear expectations for what it looks like for people to interact with families, then it trickles. All right, so back to those distinguishing factors again. And so our conclusion is that, yeah, there's a place for both of them. They're both crucial for promoting student success, but parent engagement tends to have a more profound impact due to its collaborative nature. And schools that foster strong partnerships with parents through engagement can create more supportive and effective education environments, ultimately benefiting students' academic and personal development. So again, we got to shift our mindset that engagement is a strategy, not a goal. We're not reaching for family engagement, but we're using family engagement to meet all of our other goals. Karen Matt offers a free course. I don't know if you know this.
It's self-paced, so you can just get it done when you can get it done. But it's great, and we got new research that just came out.
Yeah.
I'm used to seeing the parent family engagement research from like 2000, but this most recent is looking pretty good. So it's a great course.
Yeah. So I joked. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this in my spare time. Actually, I said our downtime when things are down in the corporate world. Which is never anymore. But anyways, so I highly recommend that you look into this. It's free. Karen Mapp is wonderful. She not only has the concepts, but she does the research, y'all. Like she's got the research that backs everything that she's pushing forward. And these are just some additional resources for you all. Some of them are some surveys you can use with families, some different strategies, and this kind of shows how they overlap. But what you're really here for is Emily's class. She's going to give you some ideas for you to take back.
All right, so welcome, happy Tuesday, yes. So I'm in Richmond School District 2. I'm going to skip through some of the background. You guys can Google, you can research all the things you need to know about everything, but I wanted to be put up a little bit. I should know. And I'm going to explain that in just a minute. So let me go back a little quicker. So Richmond School District 2 had an office of diversity and inclusion, and we revamped and we all those different things. And so I love it also, but it's family and community engagement division, and that's out of our district office. And so that thing, in my opinion, I think that's one of the biggest steps into having a different kind of mindset in Richmond too. So some of our little background. Title I, I'm coordinator of Title I compliance and family engagement. So I like the rules. I like to follow them for work. I say that again, for work. But we have 13 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 1 high school, and we also support the Center for Child Development. So that's where my money comes straight from. So we talked about involvement and engagement, but when we combine parent involvement and parent engagement, that moves us beyond compliance. I mean, it's easy enough to check off the box, right? You have to have a meeting agenda, you have to have the sign-in sheet, you have to have the minutes, right? It's not that hard, but sometimes it really is hard for folks to remember that. But that's why we're there to remind them. But when we go past just the checking things off, that's where things can really change. So we can have authentic collaboration that drives student, family, and school success. But it's a lot easier to say it than do it all the time, right? So I'm just going to click through this. You guys have the presentation. So our Title I elementary schools have either a full-time parent educator or they have a part-time parent educator that is split across schools due to the percentage. So these are just some examples. Curriculum night, good times, the school facilitated it. They may have gotten some input from students about, input from families about, hey, what do you guys want to do? Maybe that was a cool thing, a curriculum night to enjoy certain things. We also disseminate things out in languages as appropriate. That's more, in my opinion. It's got parent and teacher collaboration. The mission is possible. I did go to this one at the school, and it was more geared towards engagement event because they were constantly getting feedback from families throughout. And it wasn't just a one and done type of thing. They had a few throughout the year. So family engagement in Richland too. So one of our schools has a family involvement and volunteer interest survey. It's pretty awesome. If they want to volunteer, they want to get involved, they fill this out. Across all of our Title I schools and our non-Title I schools, we're creating a form that's going to go on every website moving forward for next school year and give that opportunity to parents right off the bat. It's not something that's always been in place. Big piece of Title I compliance. You have to say that you're giving people the opportunity to come in and give their feedback, right? If they don't come, well, that's okay too, but you have to do your part and invite them. Kindergarten parent workshop, those are all that happens every year. We add on more to that. A couple more. Talking Up Tuesdays, these are pretty cool. They're going at Forest Lake and Polo. Parent educator hosts Google Meet, and sometimes she'll have a theme. Sometimes she just kind of goes off the cuff. It's always appropriate, but it gives families a chance to call in or whatever. A lot of times you can't see their face because they're working or they're going between places, but it gives her a chance to kind of have her ear to the ground about things that are happening.
Yeah, when we're offering opportunities like this, like it's a weekly check-in, right? You can tap in from wherever you're at, but when we offer opportunities like this is when you start to build that trust and like things come out, right? The parents are starting to talk about the needs that they have or what, like, oh, I don't understand this or whatever. And so then you're able to offer more whole family services for your families.
And it's another piece of compliance because you have to show that you're offering opportunities outside of traditional 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock on Tuesdays.
Right.
You have to offer things at different dates, different times, different things. We went to back to Eureka Math, and they would work, I can't remember. I had to teach elementary math.
I taught Eureka Math.
We had parents getting lots of help with Eureka Math. And so we've been offering these at most of our Title I elementary schools. And again, my nose is right to Title I. But back to the Family and Community Engagement Office in Richland too. We started having some conversations this past year, have met. We're also part of the Parent Advisory Council in the district, which is a pretty cool initiative. And we're really working to develop common language across the board so that you hear it at Title I and you hear it at non-Title I, right? Because it really should be what's best for everybody. Title I, we just have a few more things to document. A couple of other examples. That's from one of our middle schools, parent engagement meeting. They actually went through and did some cool test simulations. So the parents had an idea. Now, I love that they call it parent engagement, and it actually did come from feedback from families wanting to know more about SC Ready and how it would look and how it would be processed, if you will, how their kids would go through it. So they kind of did a simulation. This is a great one that happens annually, and she continues to build this at Joseph Keels every year because she gets great, she collects feedback. It is aligned to academics, but you have to read and think about how is it aligned to academics. Well, building relationships, which we have already seen, is going to improve data across the board, right? Also, all of the resources here, they bring things, the families take home goodie bags, kids take home resources, and it's just another positive and engaging event for families so they can come and get some things. And I've seen people having, just face-to-face conferences at those events. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you have an opportunity, not just that, but you're tapping into your community resources, right? And that when you have them at events like that, you're creating those connections for your families as well.
So nothing happens overnight, right? So with our family and community engagement office in Richland 2, we are working to shift, like I said, our verbiage to a more common language so that parents know what they should be getting at all schools, whether it's Title I or not. So we're working through that. Again, we kind of started some of these conversations and meetings this past year. We have some work we're going to do later in the spring and the summer to continue that transformation. And we have some other teams we're going to be bringing in moving forward, but we had a couple of things we wanted to put in place this year together. And we'll talk about that too. So this is a lot of fun language. Laying the foundation, collaborative partnerships, early progress, and ongoing growth. Talked about the mindset shift so that you use parent and family engagement as a strategy, right? Well, your leadership in the teacher office has to think that way too. So, and in the buildings. So it's a constant encourage and monitor and adjust, right? So that being said, it's still developing, but we have gotten started off on the right foot. So we're hoping to build that capacity and sustainability. So one thing that is pretty neat, and I did this for our Title I schools after last year's ESSA Academy. I didn't know this. I think it was new. Maybe it was
What?
Yeah. So
Sorry,
we always say we like families and things, but we actually should collect feedback from them. Like I inherently thought that, but I wasn't doing anything on my end to say, hey, how about the event? Can you tell me how it was? Do you want to come in and talk more about it? Kind of things like that.
Return on investment, guys.
Right.
But not just that. I mean, it's really not, a return on investment. It is, but how can I meet the needs of my families if I'm not asking them?
Right. And after, and a couple plugs, let me forget. So we were on one of the states, I'm going to mess up the whole title, but parent and family engagement, kind of communities of practice, if you will, that Leslie helps to facilitate and other folks. During one of those meetings in a breakout room, I shared this form and how we were collecting feedback. And one of the ladies said, have you ever thought about adding the question, do you want to be contacted for more information? Or do you want to learn more? Or do you want to come to the school? Things like that. That was not a question on the form. But I added it about midway through the year after that PD session. And lots of people were like, yeah, hi, come in. Yeah, please call me. Or no, please text me. So all that being said, and it kind of will make sense when you go back through the presentation, but everybody in the school, in our Title I schools and in our non-Title I schools, is been asked to continuously share this form out. We also have it translated to Spanish, and I have also another in Mandarin. So that's what we needed for the most part. That's it. Yeah, that's the one. All right, so we're not going to have this. Okay. So QR code, all this good stuff. They go and they fill it out. If they've done it once, they'll continue to do it, hopefully. But it's for any time they're on campus or any time they go to CC's Pizza Night or anything. Because you never know when there might be a really solid piece of connection or trust building or anything at these events. So.
Yeah, and so like yesterday we talked about, just real quick, I know that I'm the worst at harassing you guys about your Title I parent and family engagement funds. And like if you have muffins for mom, I'm like, well, what's the academic tie here? And yes, Title I is specifically supposed to be academic driven, right? However, like not every parent and family engagement night has to be focused on those academics. We need to create space for our families to just interact with their kids in that school setting or with that school family, right?
Yep. So I'm gonna breeze through this. This presentation. I added this, in the fall when we were kind of getting these survey results and so forth started. But basic questions. What did you find most valuable about this event? They got to select their school, all that good stuff. What topics or activities would you like to see in the future? And there's a couple of responses. Class lessons, none, everything was covered. More opportunities to spend time with my child in the school setting. There's thousands of ways you could do that. And that's just one parent saying it. There's probably others that are thinking the same thing. How can we improve future family engagement events? So, yes, they can coexist, but you have to work on it. It's a constant work in progress, right? Like, God, I don't be it kind of thing. So, you're always working on something to improve. And if we are collaborating and if we are modeling that trust and the relationships in our buildings, it does spill over. Sometimes it's harder than others because we can't control how people come to us, but we can control how we deliver to them. So definitely not competing ideas. Parent and family engagement involvement should be the #1 strategy because it spills over into everything. A couple more of these little flyers, just ideas. So this parent educator, we don't buy food, 501 ever from two at all when we made that, but she has connections. She used community partners and had catered dinner. She does it twice a year. And it's similar to the Joseph Keels resource roundup, but they actually come in, they eat, and she has people from academics and other folks to share strategies, questions and answering time, things like that. It's pretty good. Pretty great stuff. Again, getting feedback. So after talking about Tuesdays and so forth, our parent educators have learned, hey, it's good when I get some feedback. At least I'm showing I'm doing that for compliance, but also I want to use it to make things better. We use Parent Square to disseminate information to families, and this school does it religiously, and many of our other schools do too, but the families know, completed, boom, good to go, and they use it constantly to drive their improvement efforts.
Yeah, like I can survey parents all day long, but if I'm not like really looking at the results and like sitting down with my admin or with my parents, if we're not having those conversations, then nothing changes. We just keep doing the same thing that we do. And yesterday I also shared, it's great to evaluate after event, but man, what does it look like for us to ask questions on the front end? What does it look like for us to poll parents at the beginning of the year about what they would like to see family engagement look like in the school? What does it look like for me to have a group of parents come in and help me design a family engagement night?
A little bit more high school, or Title I high school versus Northeast. So just examples of some things that have been happening. Done a little bit from Joseph Keels, some from Killian. Good stuff. So we know that engagement takes time, trust, and consistency, and have to listen. That means listen to our colleagues, listen to our leadership, but also listen to our families before launching ideas, initiatives, and programs. Because probably if you have a good idea, somebody else may be thinking the same thing, but they don't want to say it. Right? So staying involved is great. Taking it a step further with engagement brings the families right to you. Just keeping them involved. I want to go through. So Leslie just mentioned that looking at the data is very important. And I'll be straight with you. They've been sending out that form, but Emily Cassidy has not had a chance to dive into that data for everybody, except I did look for this presentation. And I also have on the agenda for end of the year principal meetings to look at things and get their feedback so that as we move forward for next year, how they might want to see it. Okay? So just a snapshot. 522 responses in English. 284 responses in Spanish. 16 in memory. Other languages, right? what families are basically saying, I feel more confident helping my child succeed. That's an actual quote. Another quote, this helped me better understand how to support my child. So the data is telling me that families share that the events are helping them, they understand what their child is learning, so on and so forth. Some key takeaways from the data in the Google spreadsheet, strong family-school partnerships based on the data, is academic focus, and the engagement is valued, and communication strategies are working. Where we're headed. So we've got 30%. We're going to expand the engagement opportunities, increasing the flexible scheduling, and providing practical family resources. I will tell you that of the 16 Title I schools, there are 4. I'm not going to go spank them, but there are 4 that I don't have any data for. So that's just going to be a conversation and all these good things, you know. But again, this was something new that we have never done in Richland 2 on a regular basis to collect feedback, to my knowledge. So I'm excited about where that's going, how to build it, how to polish it, how to make it more efficient for us, and maybe you guys steal it, use it, whatever you want to do. I'm going to be quiet and y'all can talk. But then on April 23rd, if you're in the Charleston area, I encourage you. All right, so it's the upcoming Family Engagement Roundtable. It's going to be in person on April 23rd, and it's a valuable opportunity for anybody that works with parents and families, the students, everybody. Administrators, I know April 23rd, that's a little hard time to get out of the building, but you can go. Yes. So it's from 10 to 1 on Thursday, April 23rd, in Keith, Summey, North Charleston Public Library. So, information to register is available.
Rosa will send it to me, and if you get on my listserv, then I'll make sure that it goes out to you.
I will forward it to you right now.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, I kind of wanted to play on what you said. You said return on investment, but not risk. But really, it is.
Really, it is.
When our students, we're investing in our parents. If we show them, you know, all the effort we put into it, hopefully they will also put in the effort back. So it's not just always about numbers. It's always about the quality of what we're showing. So I do like that you said that.
Yeah. I mean, that's been kind of our focus this week. I will say I taught at Jackson Creek, and I was there when they first opened. I was there for the first 3 years, and it may have been the school that I was like, nobody's going to show up, right? And so for me to see that they had over 200 families respond to a survey, you know, is really impactful because it shows that they've learned how to get their parents in, right? And how to meet the needs of their families. Because it was like, there's one family night that we legit had like 5 families. So, I know that there's great things going on in a lot of districts. I'm gonna let you do your plug.
I don't think this, but those Scholastic may have gotten a free book in their session. We did, because we got kicked out of one of the server one over there yesterday. So, also one got one in Geneva. So I'm going to get one of these for each of our parent educators or elementary schools, as well as I'm going to share with our my copies for middle and high school. Support the work.
Yeah.
But it's some really good stuff in here. I haven't even finished all of it, but I just started typing.
Right.
What are you using for this year's book study? And we have a list if anybody's interested for the last almost 10 years.
Yes.
So we can certainly share.
Yeah, like I was saying, I know that there's great things that are going on across the state. I have utilized several of you to share out the amazing things that you are doing. If you are doing something that you think is really out of the box and that I need to come see, please invite me out to a parent night. I may not always make it, but the invitation is necessary for me to even be able to see it, right? But I want to come and see what you guys are doing. And I want to be able to utilize you guys to share out, because it's just like what I said before, you know, if professional development is about really getting the information and then sharing it out with others. And so you guys are doing amazing things. So is there anyone that would like to share? I mean, one of the things I saw was classroom lessons, and I know Missy Martin back there in the back does some amazing math mornings where they invite families in, they do a lesson together, and then they get to see it in action in the classroom. So that really is, the rubber meeting the road to where families are seeing things. They also do amazing things like sending or having videos for parents to access to be able to see teaching in progress. They touch base with families that are not attending events. So, we need to be analyzing those that are coming, but who's not coming, and what can we do to meet them. So, anybody else want to share? We got like, I don't know, a couple minutes. I'm going to let you out early so you can maybe use the bathroom for once today, but so that I can use the bathroom for once today. But is there anybody else that wants to share anything before we let you go? Yes. This is, you have to tell us who you are. This is Ritual One.
And the portion of our Richmond School District 1. And one of the things that we're doing this year, we've had 2, and we have another session April 13th. We're taking our engagement activities to South Carolina State Museum because we are the capital district, and all of these things are around us. And then we also had a Richmond One family experience at the Riverbank Zoo. And so we had almost 800 families attend on that day. And it was actually a teacher work day, so the children were out of school on that day. So, and Miss Green back there, her daughter is one of our parent and family engagement specialists, and she did a wonderful video that captures our Riverbank Zoo experience. But we're having our third one at the Columbia Museum of Art. And so we're collaborating with these entities to have something free for our families to come in and they, experience it together. And we got very great reviews from our families to have that time because, believe it or not, some of the families that live right there in Columbia, they haven't been to some of these locations. So we're giving them an opportunity to do that.
Love it. Thank you, LaTorsha. Anyone else? You guys are amazing. Thank you for what you do every day. This is the listserv that I mentioned. So if you are not a member of said listserv, you can click the QR on it and add yourself to it. We do have a roundtable coming up besides Rosa's. We have one that's coming up in April, I believe.
Yes.
So, and that one's going to be really a collaborative effort. It's going to be you guys really sharing out and talking through where you're at and where you're headed. So, I appreciate you guys. Emily appreciates you guys. You got one more session, guys. I don't know where you're going, but make it a good one. Thank you, guys. Reach out if you need anything. Oh, here it is. April 22nd. Yours is the 23rd? There are requirements for having it in schools, but I mean, really, we should be doing family engagement everywhere.
We should. My district doesn't have family engagement.
Coordinated, right?
No. So all family engagement activities come mainly from schools.
Sure.
So I'm just figuring out the direction of it.
Sure. Did you see my presentation yesterday? It was on family engagement. Okay. So yesterday's was really about what do we need to stop and think about, like when we're thinking about meeting our family's needs. So if you would like, I can come up to you guys and talk to principals.
There's just not a big push. We have a very big but there's just not a big push for official parent family engagement activities like we were talking about.
Sure.
Math nights and like that kind of thing that people do, but not like
we can even do. So I can. We can even. I've met with middle school staff before. Sorry, this is not I've met with middle school staff before where we sat down and just talked and collaborated about like, well, what are you doing now? Like, have you thought about this? Like, I mean, I can tell. I mean, since you don't have it's just that, like, tap into me as a resource.
I do have monthly preliminary Christmas meetings. I might invite you to one of those.
Sure.
Because I think this is something that we definitely need to
Sure.
work on with more.
Yeah, in person, virtual, whatever. Okay. Yep. Yeah, no problem.
I'm trying to find Karen Cook before she leaves. I'm gonna give her some invoices.
Um,
See her?
I have not.